In this audio recording, I'm going to give a parable. In this account, there were Spanish colonists from the province of Costa Rica that sailed towards an island just just outside the shores of Costa Rica in the Pacific. They arrived at the island. The island wasn't inhabited by anyone, but the people, I'm saying the colonists, got stuck on the island because their ship sank. So for the next 10 years, there was no contact with the mainland of North America and that island. And there was no option for them to communicate with the Viceroyalty of New Spain, which was located in Mexico City, to send someone to get them. Remember, there were no cell phones, nor there was no Wi-Fi, nor any of that in that time. So the people that remained there, they built a small village, and they became a self-sufficient community in the sense that they used the resource of the island to remain alive. After 10 years, the new governor of the Kingdom of Guatemala went through the records concerning the settlements of Spanish colonists, and he found out that there were colonists that sailed towards an island near Costa Rica, but they never were heard of again. So this governor sent the Spanish Navy to locate this island. And they found this island in the Pacific. And when the captain that led the Navy arrived over there, or better said, the admiral, when the admiral arrived, he felt gloom from far off. He felt happiness. So he told his sailors that only he and the first and second officer would go on land. And that happened. So they went on land and they found this village, which was quite grayish, and the people over there, they looked quite angry, depressed, sad, or better said, embittered. And the houses were grayish, they even wore grayish clothes. So one of them asked him, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Then the captain says, "I'm Captain Juarez. I'm sent by the governor of Guatemala. I'm here to rescue you." And then the other people there, the locals said, "Huh? Rescue us? Rescue us from what?" Then the captain said, "You've been on this island for 10 years. The Spanish Navy didn't register your departure correctly. That's why the Captain General, or the governor of Guatemala now, who has been recently appointed by the king, sent us to get you off this island and bring you back to the kingdom." Well, eventually, the captain managed to get all those inhabitants, which were the Spanish colonists, off the island, and they were brought back to the province of Costa Rica, where they officially located. But soon, within 2 months, all of them sailed back to that island. And then the governor asked the captain whether he rescued the people or not. Well, the captain made play, "Sir, I went there, but the people resisted getting off the island. Eventually came along, but I found out that many of them returned back to that grayish village of theirs." And you know what the governor said? The governor told him, "Captain Juarez, leave them over there. If you have any left in the province of Costa Rica and he wants to spread gloom and doom over there, expel him to that island. Let them keep that island." But Captain Juarez said, "Sir, that island is Spanish territory." Then the governor said, "Yes, it is Spanish territory, but we never incorporated it into our kingdom directly. I mean, we never incorporated it into the kingdom of Guatemala. Neither does the King of New Granada have it in its jurisdiction. You know what? We'll tolerate those people with their Gloom cities, with their Gloom city over there. Captain Juarez said, "But sir, if we do that, it is as if we give them the right to defy the king's will." Then the governor said, "Captain Juarez, I've been appointed directly by the king. I know him personally, and let me tell you, the king is far more pleased with those reprobates having their city of Gloom on that remote island than that those people are walking around freely in the kingdom spreading all that hate and negativity. We don't want all the bitterness in the kingdom of Guatemala. Spain will not benefit from that." And then Captain Juarez, who realized he was telling the truth, agreed. He said, "Yeah, sir, you're completely right. We'll leave them there." Now that was the parable. Now what happened here? In that parable, there were citizens of Spain that migrated to the kingdom of Guatemala, which was one of the American kingdoms of the Spanish Empire. You had the old kingdoms in mainland Europe, and you had the new kingdoms in the Americas, which were the colonies of Madrid, or the colonies of Spain. Now, these Spanish colonists landed in the province of Costa Rica. Well, the province of Costa Rica was a very militarized region, due to conflicts amongst the natives. So there were colonists that decided, you know what? There are some islands in the Pacific, several days away from Costa Rica. Let's check that out. So they did. But they didn't manage to return because their ship sank. I told that already. But those Spanish citizens, they forgot who they were. And after forgetting who they were, they became something else. They became these grayish entities that kept themselves in the negative. So years passed, and they also developed this hatred against Spain, against what all the Spain stood for. So when Captain Juarez came on behalf of them to rescue them, they responded in a hostile manner towards him. And when they finally were rescued, because they realized that they had to get off the island, when they were in the kingdom back again, they couldn't wait to flee from the kingdom. Now, in that parable, what you should notice is that those people did not want to give up that Gloom city that they built for themselves. They didn't want to give it up. They became so attached to it. It had become everything to them. Even though in the kingdom of Guatemala itself, they had abundance of farmland, abundance of resources. There was only abundance in the kingdom of Guatemala. They preferred that Gloom city of theirs on a remote island in the Pacific. Now, just like in that parable, there are people who prefer lack. They prefer poverty. They prefer all those plagues above the life and abundance of the kingdom of God, which will never expire and which is abundant in an infinite. Let me say this. The life and abundance from the kingdom of God, the supply is infinite, because the Most High himself is infinite. So nobody can drain the kingdom of God. That's not possible. So everyone can live off of the kingdom of God forever. And that's God's will for us, that we live off of his provisions forever. But don't you know that there are people that are proud? They want to validate themselves, so they will prefer the impoverishment of the world above the life and abundance of the real kingdom. In this parable, I used the historic country Guatemala, which was a kingdom governed by the king of Spain. Okay, and that kingdom indeed was very abundant. It was so abundant that many pirates came there to have their way. Okay, so because of all those pirates, it became like a peripheral region, despite all the abundance. Now, just like that kingdom of Guatemala, became a peripheral region though to the pirates that came there with their negativity. Well, that's how those people in that parable were, those Spanish colonists that became these grayish entities. So if they would have been kept in mainland New Spain, they would have transferred all that happiness onto the locals and they would have spread it around to feel good about themselves. Now, the message I'm giving you in this video is let them have their Gloom city. I'm going to repeat this. Let them have their Gloom city. Don't take it away from them. Let them have their Gloom city so that they will be stuck in the Gloom city and they will not spread that bitterness around. Because if they had the chance, they would spread all the bitterness around without stopping. So they built this world with toxic restrictions for themselves, and they are enacting these toxic restrictions. You know what? Let them be. Shake the dust off your feet and move on. You don't move on because they have a right to will whatever they will. You don't move on because they have a right to be in the state they're in. Just understand that if they would have the chance, they would infect you too with their bitterness. They would rather infect everyone, that everyone would perish, than that they would have to face themselves. That is a hardcore fact. A hardcore realistic fact that you need to face. I don't care who this individual was for you in the past, whether it was a best friend of yours, someone that was there for you when you needed them. It can be that as a kid, he or she was a sibling of yours that stood up for you. But listen, the context has changed, situations have changed. That individual is not the same individual anymore. So just because when you were a kid, they meant a lot for you, because you needed their support, that doesn't mean that now as an adult you can continue your relationship with them based on the fact that they were there for you back then. I'm not saying to be disloyal towards people that were loyal onto you. I'm telling you to evaluate the people that are around you and to see them for what they are and to see them for what they've become over time and to see where they're heading. Look, truth being told, if I was the governor, if I was appointed by the King of Spain as the governor of Guatemala, and I would find out that 10 years have passed, and that none of those migrants made any effort to come back at land, because even if the ship perished, it still could build some large boat, and it could have sailed easily to the coast of either South America or Central America, because Spain rules the whole western Pacific shores of North America, all the way from Tierra del Fuego in the south, Cape of South America, and from there all the way up to Alaska, what do they call Alaska. So if I was a governor of Guatemala, I would have thought, hold on a minute, how could 10 years have passed and none of those people made any effort coming back to Guatemala, nor going to the Viceroyalty of New Spain or to Peru? Then I would send an expedition to see if they are alive. But I would command the Marines not to contact them, but just to report and bring things back onto me. And if I would have received the report that those colonists are still alive, and that they've built a whole existence over there, and they're living in a grayish town, that I would justify my decision not to locate them and bring them back to Guatemala based on the fact that they have refused any effort and they have refused every chance for an escape, because he had all the time to escape, but they refused to. So if you have people like that refused to escape a dangerous situation over and over again, even though it was obvious onto them and to everyone else that the situation was dangerous, then I'm telling you, you're dealing with a dangerous individual. Forget about the situation. That individual, him or herself, is dangerous. Yes, I know that there is such a thing as a Stockholm syndrome. Yes, I know that narcissists can isolate their victims and people begin to see things backwards. I know that exists. But even when that's going on, you need to keep your distance from that codependent individual, because that codependent individual is likely to draw you into danger. And when you see that the codependent is not willing to see things as they are, or they resist acknowledging things as they are, then leave them in Gloom City. This may sound harsh. You're not being harsh. You're being realistic. Okay? Look, when Christ walked by in a city once, there were many people, multitudes came unto Christ. Common people heard about this guy walking around, healing people, raising the dead, multiplying food and feeding the crowd. So the common people were so amazed by Christ, but only because of what they could get from him. Then there was this one blind man into that town. When Christ passed by, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Remember, he was blind. The common people that were so crazy about Christ told him to shut up. They became violent towards him. But the guy kept screaming, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." And he pressed through the crowd to reach for Christ. And Christ stopped. Now listen to me. When the common people were crazy about them, when the common people fell in love with them, and he was so popular amongst them, Christ did not stop. And you need to have discernment here. Some people will be so crazy about you, not because they are really for you, but only because of what they can get out of you. Let me explain. It's not that much about money. When you walk supernaturally and you get these results that others can't have, even if you work very hard, I'm telling you, common people tend to become upset. When they become upset and when they are offended, they can either react in an aversive manner, which they turn on you, begin to avoid you, can take actions against you, or they can respond in an attractive manner in which they will become, so obsessed with you, wanting to have you around to feed off of you, and they will intoxicate you with their happiness. In both cases, they are taking actions against you, but when they do it in an aversive manner, it's obvious. When they do it in an attractive manner, it's less obvious. You think they want you, you think they're supporting you, while exactly the opposite is going on. Christ knew what was going on. And look at this. That blind man who really needed help, as soon as possible, they hindered him in coming to Christ. If they were so in love with Christ, if they were so into Christ, why didn't tell them, "Jesus, hold up, stop. There's a man calling you here. He's blind. He needs help." They didn't do that. They told the guy to shut up. They knew Christ was about reaching out to people. So if they were so into Christ, why didn't they tell Christ, "Christ, stop. There's a man needing you here." And why didn't he bring the man onto Christ? They didn't do it. That's why I'm telling you, evaluate the attitude of the people around you, especially when people are supporting you. Now, don't get me wrong here. You will have people who will support you just because they care about you. Such people exist. Not everyone that supports you or gives you compliments wants something from you. Not everyone that is showing affection to you is love bombing you. Okay? Learn the difference between love bombing and genuine affection. You may have strangers showing genuine affection onto you because they're just filled with love, with real love. You will have such people. They have no intention of sleeping with you, nor in getting money from you. They're just who they are. Now, if you are delivered, you will recognize the difference between such natural affection and love bombing. Well, I already made a video about this, so go and watch it if you haven't watched it yet. Nevertheless, evaluate the people around you. Don't only evaluate those that turn on you in an aversive manner. Also evaluate those who turn on you in an attractive manner, because they're doing the same thing as those that turned on you in an aversive manner, but they do it in a covert way. They are wolves in sheep's clothing. So Christ walked through that town, and there were many wolves cheering for him, so they could get close to him and devour him. So Christ did not stop for those wolves, because those wolves, as you see already, they were attacking a sheep that needed help. Christ stopped for the sheep. and he addressed the sheep, and the sheep was serious in what he needed. So he got his sight and he began to follow Christ. Remember, that sheep did not care about the wolves around. He knew the master was there, and that the master is the good shepherd. So he cried out to the good shepherd, and the good shepherd stopped. And when he could see, when again he continued after the master, he didn't even pay attention to the wolves around him. Okay, I wanted to point it out to you. That blind man, even though his perception his perception was ruined, he was practical, he was factual, he was realistic. But don't you know that there are people that long to be accepted by common folks, that they would use Christ's name and the people that follow Christ to get their validation from common people? You have such folks. Such folks will approach you, wanting support from you, and later when they feel good, they will go back to common people and they will sell you out, talk dirty about you, just to get relief from those people. So they're using you to get relief from common people. Those same common people who didn't do anything to reach out onto them. But because they're so codependent, they will sell you out. Christ was not a dummy. Christ was not stupid. Christ was gracious. Christ was loving. Christ was merciful. That's all true. Christ, however, was also intelligent. Christ also was filled with discernment. Christ also saw through deception. That's how you ought to be too. There's another thing I want to reveal onto you. In the New Testament, when Christ was tempted by Satan, Satan offered him the kingdoms of the world and the glory, but Christ refused. Now, in Hollywood movies, you often have this scene in which someone gets into a deal with the devil or with some demonic principality for material wealth, fame, and all of that. And they give you the impression that most people, when it comes down to, would say yes to a deal for wealth and abundance if Satan granted unto them. But there's the thing, Satan has no abundance to give. He can only give you short-term luxury that will expire very quickly. And here's another thing. Many people, just like those Spanish migrants that turned into those grayish creatures, they do not want any abundance, because abundance means there is no excuse anymore for their unwillingness to let go. They want to hold on. In order to hold on, they need scarcity around them. So many worldly people, I'm talking about common people now, would not take a deal for wealth or fame, or for riches or fame. They wouldn't do it, not because they are in agreement with Christ, not because they are against Satan. There are common people against Satan, okay? But the reason they wouldn't say yes to the offer Satan would make unto them is because that would nullify their self-validation. Satan only offers riches and fame to those that are desperate for a false escape. To the common people in general, Satan will never offer riches and fame. You know why? Because Satan knows they are already trapped, and they will rather keep themselves trapped. Satan knows this about the majority of common people. That's why he only offers riches and fame to a small, very tiny minority of them, or willingly to receive this false escape from poverty, or this false escape from job insecurity. You get what I'm saying? So if Satan knows that the majority of the common people have no interest in real abundance, they just want to be relieved, then why would Satan offer something onto them that might open their eyes if they received it? He wouldn't. Satan will appease them in the scarcity mindset they have. You get what I'm saying here? So it's not true that most people will fall for luxury, riches, and all that. Most people fall for the false security of being validated by society. That is what most people fall for. So Satan doesn't even have to do much effort on those people to keep them trapped, because they're keeping themselves trapped already. Just don't let them trap you, believer. That's why if they hold on to Gloom City, leave them in Gloom City. Let them remain in Sodom and Gomorrah. agree with Christ.